Welcome back to AM Northwest. National Geographic Sharkfest returns with over 25 hours of hair-raising programming about the ocean's fiercest fish. From awe-inspiring adventures to myth-busting insights, shows like Investigation Shark Attack take a deep dive into the science, power, and magnificence of these misunderstood predators.
This is footage taken by authorities after an incident on that day. So you can see the conditions, you can see the shark.
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, you obviously see your rounded head.
I mean, we all look at that and we know that's a bull shark.
Bull sharks are really stocky. They're really thick, broad snout sharks.
Some people call them pit bulls of the sea.
Behind great whites and tiger sharks, bull sharks have the third highest number of unprovoked bites worldwide.
They're one of the few sharks that when they are fully grown, they will go after prey that's nearly their size.
Bull sharks have this domineering presence, which you cannot ignore.
And we welcome marine biologist Candace Fields and marine ecologist Dr. Mike Heithaus. Good morning, you two.
Good morning.
Okay, so I have to tell you, my producer, Leslie, all yesterday, all I heard from her was, sharks are so misunderstood. Is that sometimes, and that's exactly how she sounds, by the way. Do you feel that way?
Yes, I'm Team Leslie for sure. I absolutely think that they are misunderstood and get a pretty bad rap. And perhaps, hopefully our shows are helping to dispel a little bit of that bad reputation.
Mike, you feel the same way?
Absolutely. I'd like to say, hey, we must have nailed it on Sharkfest this year if that's the reaction we got, because one of the things we're trying to do is really give a shark's perspective more than we have in the past to really understand why they're in certain areas, use the latest science to understand their behavior. And we're just learning so many new amazing things about these animals. We're realizing they're even more misunderstood than we thought.
Wow. Okay, let me start with you, Candace. Where did your love of sharks come from?
I was born and raised in the Bahamas, so I, obviously had a natural introduction to the ocean from a very young age. And I was always one who, I didn't want to play on the sand. I wanted to grab some goggles and see some fish.
Wow.
And anytime there was a shark, I was just, blown away. And I think that I had this natural curiosity to try to understand what's the big deal? Why are people so, against sharks? I've never personally had any really negative interaction, so I wanted to kind of understand what the big deal was about sharks, and I guess I just never fell out of love with them.
Wow. Mike, for you?
I grew up in the cornfields of Ohio and just always wanted to be a marine biologist because of watching TV shows, and that's one reason it's just such an honor to be part of Sharkfest and to hopefully inspire another generation in the public the way I was inspired. And then I got to sharks by some work I was doing on dolphins and figured I had to learn about sharks to understand what dolphins were doing. And as soon as I kind of got close to the first shark I saw and realized how little we knew about them, I was hooked on it and wanted to spend a lot more time trying to understand these animals and how important they were in oceans.
Candace, what are some of the biggest myths that you've encountered from even maybe your friends who are fearful of sharks?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most obvious big myth is that sharks are these sort of mindless eating machines, and that if you encounter a shark, it will go poorly. That is absolutely not the case. A majority of the time, sharks are swimming around people, and people have no clue. And that's because the sharks are avoiding people as best as they can. The sharks are not looking for people as a source of food. And so we are given this perspective from the media, from Jaws, from highlighting all these shark bites, that sharks and people cannot coexist safely, and that is just absolutely not the case. And like Mike said, our goal on our show is to give the sharks perspective as to why they're even in areas that people are.
Right.
And I think that we have the capacity to have shark safe ocean going, and we just have to give the sharks the respect that they deserve.
One of the things I learned from your show is how their vision is not the greatest. And so when they're in murky waters, that can really change what they think is food versus something else. Mike?
Yeah, that's right. Their vision is not super great. And I mean, even if it was, a lot of times they're in murky water. So it doesn't matter how good your seeing is. You have to rely on other senses, but also just kind of flashes of color. And that's why if somebody's paddling in murky water, yeah, that flash of a hand may look like a fish and you may get a strike. Or it may look like something big and scary coming at a smaller shark and they may kind of react by having a little bite and swimming away. And I think that's one of the surprising things people find is that, a lot of these unfortunate incidents are actually smaller animals that are either making a mistake or are afraid of people and are kind of trying to defend themselves.
Okay, I've learned, again, from your show, bull sharks are very different than other types of sharks. So describe to me why they're so different, Candace.
Yeah, so bull sharks are, almost this sort of super predator in that they have the capacity to swim in both saltwater environments and freshwater environments, right? When we think of sharks, we think about the ocean, but bull sharks can be in rivers, right? They have this capacity to sort of, for lack of an easy way to describe it, regulate their saltiness. Bull sharks are very, very special and just absolutely amazing animals, and we have still so much to learn from and about them.
Mike, do you think that the movie Jaws really did this huge disservice to sharks? I mean, because everyone can think of that movie.
Well, I think it's a mixed legacy. I think that, there's no question that it inspired a lot of fear. I mean, I was terrified at the deep end of the pool when I saw that as a kid, which maybe helped me get to be a better swimmer by really going quickly off through the deep end. And it did result in a lot more kind of kill tournaments, but it also started to inspire fascination with these animals. And I think that, it inspired a number of my colleagues to become marine biologists. And I think the fact that we're still talking about that movie 50 years later has kind of kept this focus on sharks in a way that right now can be used as a positive to try to make sure we protect these animals, because they're in big trouble and we need to rebuild their population. So we need to have more sharks in the ocean so we can have healthy oceans, but then we need people to actually be able to use the oceans as well and in a safe manner. And that's one of the balances that Candace and I and our colleagues are trying to hit with our research and that we're trying to do with this show.
Wow, you're doing it. We want to tell everyone Sharkfest runs through July 21st on Nat Geo with all past programs streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu. Thank you both so much. Thanks for the work you're doing.
Thank you for having us.
You bet. All right, we'll be right back with more AM Northwest. Don't go away.